We're very proud at NDSA because we're here today to recognize and honor one of our own. Jim Coolahan is our 2017 For the Lewis Putz Award recipient.
So thanks, Leon, for this introduction and presentation. And it looks a lot different up here. As I've been on both the Alumni Board and the Senior Alumni Board, I know what it's like to sit out there. So I will guarantee you this will take no more than 5 minutes. Okay. So when Leon notified me that I had been selected as the Father Putz Award recipient, I was truly humbled. Because being on the Senior Alumni Board, I was familiar with many of its worthy past recipients and their accomplishments. So I want to thank the Notre DAme Senior Alumni Board and the Notre DAme Alumni Association for honoring me in this way. As Leon mentioned, Father Putz spoke of the 3 phases of our lives as learning, earning, and returning. And I think that's a very insightful characterization. But I also admit that those phases can overlap. We know of many examples of our Notre Dame students who are already returning through their service in the community here in the South Bend area. And certainly the earning and returning phases can overlap, with just a different emphasis as the years progress. I'm happy to have my wife, Liz, here with me today to share in this honor. But our 3 children are still embedded in their earning phases, and I guess that's a good thing. Although our older daughter, Teresa, who's completing her term as secretary of the Notre Dame Club of New York, will be here tonight to participate in the Alumni Leadership Conference. So in accepting this award, I guess I'd like to emphasize 3 words: serendipity, persistence, and collaboration. And I'll briefly discuss them in reverse order. So first of all, collaboration. I really do consider this recognition to be a recognition of all of the Notre Dame alumni with whom I've been associated over the years who've been contributing to the good works done in the name of Our Lady's University. For example, and it was mentioned, the Senior Open Golf Tournament, which has in its first 2 years raised over $35,000 for the God Country Notre Dame Scholarship Fund. We've had a small team that's collaborated on making this tournament a signature event for the Notre Dame Senior Alumni, many of whom are here with us today. And as those of you who run golf tournaments know, the real money doesn't come from player fees, it comes from sponsorships. So I'd like to recognize Jack Leicht. Jack, where are you? Jack as former chair of the Senior Alumni Board and recently elected to the Senior Alumni Representative on the Alumni Board, for leading the sponsorship effort and enticing many folks to contribute. So thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't note that in the area of collaboration, many of us have our spouses to thank for the things that we do for Notre Dame. So second of all, persistence. It's one thing to organize a single social service event to benefit a worthy cause, and that's good. But it's quite another to do it year after year through changes in club leadership, changes in organizations, and so on. But I think it's really quite another thing to see how the organizations see that persistent characteristic of Notre Dame Club work. A great example of that work is what Joe Delaney, the first recipient of the Father Putz Award in 2002, did in the New York area with his Bread of Life food drive. And another example is the Notre Dame Club of Maryland's Christmas party for Sarah's House for the homeless shelter that we started in 1988 and have done every year since. And I know there are several other examples like this in Notre Dame clubs throughout the country. And finally, serendipity. It's more than coincidence. Webster's dictionary defines serendipity as the faculty or phenomenon of finding valuable or agreeable things not sought for. So serendipity can lead us to doing good things. And as I moved further into the returning phase of my life as a Notre Dame alum, I've had the opportunity to reflect more on the role of serendipity in what has been my Notre Dame service experience. Back in 1988, as a 38-year-old advancing my professional career, and as a new member of the Notre Dame Club of Maryland Board, I started to reflect on whether I was doing enough in social service. And at the time, Father Malloy had just assumed the presidency of Notre Dame and was encouraging Notre Dame clubs to get more involved in social service activities. And at the time, Tom Sullivan, who was a classmate of Dick Martini here and was the club president, and at one meeting he just, out of the blue, turned to me and said, well, Father Malloy wants us to get involved in more social service activities, and Jim, I'd like you to figure out what our club should do in response to Father Malloy's charge. Wow, that was a coincidence or serendipity. And this led to the partnership with Sarah's House that I mentioned before. As was mentioned, as I was in my final year on the Senior Alumni Board in the fall of 2014, having been named the chair of the Alumni Networking and Events Committee, about a week before the fall board meeting, as I'm sure many of you do, I was struggling to figure out what I could do, okay? What could I do for an event? And literally standing in the shower, I had what has come to be called an aha moment, right? We needed a national signature event that the senior alums could lead, and out popped the idea for the Senior Open, which was much better defined during our subsequent meeting. And wow, that was more of a coincidence that all came together, and that was serendipity. And as was mentioned by Leon also, in 2015, after the unrest in Baltimore, the Notre Dame Club of Maryland was looking for a way to help. And having made an immediate monetary contribution that was mentioned, we were looking to find a way to contribute in a more personal and persistent way. And I did a little online research, and I found out about this school, St. Ignatius Loyola Academy in Baltimore, run by the Jesuits, tuition-free, all minority boy attendance in grades 6 through 8. And so Liz and I, being from Baltimore, it was summer, we went to a crab feast of our music ministry, and we happened to sit down next to a friend that I knew for a while, and he was wearing a St. Ignatius Loyola Academy polo shirt. And I said, wow, what a coincidence that is. And he explained to me how his tutoring had gone there and even gave me the point of contact for the person to contact. So clearly serendipity and maybe more. So I think that serendipity is a really good word. Not necessarily in itself, but because it contains the right letters. An S, a P, 2 I's, an R, and a T. As we move from Easter into Pentecost, I'm convinced that, as our Catholic faith tells us, the Holy Spirit is active in our lives when it comes to doing good for others. Perhaps these coincidences aren't just coincidences. Serendipity is not just a secular word that we use to describe a happy or a fortuitous coincidence. When that aha moment arrives, when we're standing in the shower, that provides us an opportunity to do good for others, perhaps it is the Holy Spirit raining down on us. Thank you for this award. God bless Our Lady's University, its students, faculty, administration, staff, alumni, family, and friends, and go Irish.